Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast that loves to go beyond the review to get into the craft, the story, and the meaning of the films we watch today. This is a bit of a special surprise episode. I mean, we've been planning it for a week, but, kind of surprisey. Tonight, I've got a few things for you. We've got a special guest host, and tonight we are going to be taking a look at the original Jurassic Park and trying to answer the question, does this 1990s blockbuster hold up? First of all, here's the log line from IMDb. A pragmatic paleontologist touring an almost complete theme park on an island in Central America is tasked with protecting a couple of children after a power failure causes the park's cloned dinosaurs to run loose. Not even an amuck in the log line. What a lame log line. Anyway, this movie, of course, came out in 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Michael Crichton and David Koepp, based on Michael Crichton's eponymous novel. Well, no, it really wouldn't be eponymous. Anyway, novel of the same title, Jurassic Park. It stars Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough, and Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards as the children. It also stars Bob Peck, Martin Ferrero, B.D. Wong, Samuel L. Jackson in a brief role, and Wayne Knight, who you might remember from Seinfeld, Newman. Anyway, it getting into the social nutrition checklist, of course, wouldn't have earned a reframe stamp. Was union made, didn't pass the Bechdel test, although maybe... Geez. Ooh. No, I'm pretty confident there was never just a quick chat between Laura Dern and Ariana Richards' character. Anyway, class conscious, good Lord, no. Anyway, it comes to a score of 25%. And with that out of the way, oopsie, didn't mean to do that. With that out of the way, folks, I think it's time to bring on my guest co-host with the most, great friend of the channel. Let's say hello to Dragon Movie Guy.
Newman.
Newman.
Or the sweaty guy from Basic Instinct. That's the other option.
Perhaps, yeah. That's right. Jeez, I can't. Oh my goodness. Great.
The extreme close-up on his forehead and he's sweating.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Jeez, good one, man. Great reference. All right. Oh, excuse me. Terrible belch. DMG, of course, for those of you regular watchers of my channel and the videos on my channel, you've seen him before. Dragon Movie Guy. He's got his own channel. Brian, tell us about your most recent review.
My most recent review was Top Gun Maverick from last weekend, and I saw that 3 times. And it was interesting because I didn't feel any kind of a drop-off in the 3 times that I watched it. So,
really, holy crap!
Yeah, usually, even really good movies, when you see it a second or third time, you're just like, well, it's coming, and it kind of drops off a little bit. This one, it's just maybe it's just nostalgia, but 3 full times through, it's a 2-hour movie, so 6 hours worth of watching Top Gun Maverick, and I wasn't bored. Didn't fall asleep. Didn't have my mind wander. It just is really, it's nostalgic, but it also it's good in its own right. So,
wow, that's crazy, man. What are you now most excited about coming out next? Are you going to be at the theater next week for Jurassic Park Dominion of the World?
World domination. Yes, absolutely. I will be going to the theater. Hopefully, see a screening. If not, I'll be going Thursday night with everyone else to watch
The rest of us
sixth
peasants.
Jurassic. Yes, to go watch the 6th Jurassic Park franchise movie. Everything. It's hard to believe it's been that many, but it seems to be like the law of diminishing returns. So I hope it's not. I hope this one is good, and it's not just, oh, we're running and more CGI and we're running,
and yet we're still running.
Yeah. Hopefully not as much moralizing over human cloning as the last time through. So,
as happens on occasion, because that's a thing. What else? What is the next video you're going to be putting out?
So
you already did what you're looking forward to for the summer. What's the next on that kind of program?
I just released my top 10 for the month of June, which obviously includes some of the movies from my top 10 summer movie release. But this one is specifically for the month of June, as today is the first Friday of June, and all the summer releases or all the June releases are hitting the big screen. So I have just been putting out my top 10 list as of yesterday, and I'm doing shorts versions of that today as well. It's what I've been working on today.
Cool.
And I just hit my 400th subscriber today. So
wow. Jim and I just hit our 235th subscriber.
Yeah, but you have like 20 times the watch time that I do. So
well, I'm not 100% sure about that anymore. Well, that's awesome, man. 400? Like you're going to be hitting that half a thousand pretty soon, dude. Very good. Congratulations.
Get that comments, that community section up and running, and
that's
splash
a perfect
all of my everything over it.
Absolutely. And this is a perfect opportunity to let everyone know, if they haven't already, subscribe to Brian's channel, Dragon Movie Guy. The link is in the description. So go click on it and go check out some great content and subscribe. Again, if you haven't already. Of course, that does make me think that's also a perfect opportunity early on in the show, before we get into the meat of it, to beg everyone for a like. Of course,
Ding.
You could subscribe to my channel as well. That would be awesome. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, ring-ding that bell.
I don't have have Jim's bell, but
got nothing. Nothing.
Always missing.
All right, you'll be a guest host again. All right. Again, everyone, we are looking at Jurassic Park. Before we get into the spoiler zone, let me just ask you straight up, Brian, did it hold up? Did it hold up for you?
Yes, absolutely. It's been a while since I just sat down and watched it, not when it's not on TV, and just sat down and watched it. And I remember it being the best of the series, but you really notice a lot of the details and the pacing and the everything that goes into a Steven Spielberg movie that's different than the Colin Trevorrow movies. There's just, that he's Steven Spielberg. He's Spielberg for a reason.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely holds up. A modern classic. Although we are looking at a movie that's 29 years old now. Came out in 93. It'll be 30 years old next year. So our friend Cody will definitely be looking for some sort of celebratory Steelbook Blu-ray release, and maybe some more, what is it, Funko Pop crap. Cody, if you're watching,
he always finds the coolest merch to get and to kind of treasure.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, maybe that's why his chair is broke, because he's not getting the chair fixed. He's too busy buying stuff. Anyway, let's get into this one now. We are okay. For those of you who don't know, everything past this point is in the spoiler zone, and and of course we get into craft, we get into the story, then we get into the meaning of the film, and we're going to do our damnedest to get this all done including the intro, in an hour. So with that out of the way, yeah, tick, 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 tick. Let's start with the craft, especially, Brian, this movie, which really was like an eye-opener, like kind of amazing. And yeah, give me your take on the craft. Just wherever you feel like starting. You want to start with performance? You want to start with the amazing special effects? Your call.
Well, for me, it's not just the historic, like one of the first major uses of CGI. And yeah, there was CGI before this, but the fact that really the succeeding Jurassic Park films and sequels and Jurassic World films, the CGI hasn't really improved any off of this original film. The artistry done in this film with the CGI and matching all of the stop motion with all of the mannequins on set, it's virtually seamless. And to say that about a film that came out in 1993, a full 6-7 years before Jar Jar Binks, before Avatar, 15, 20 years before Avatar, it's pretty amazing that the CGI still holds up. And then on top of that, I was just rewatching this film, the whole first reel, 20 minutes and 30 seconds in, is the first time we get a shot of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Everything else is like it's cold open, it's stuff off screen, but it's not the CGI. It's
stuff
of the dinosaurs
in a cage that we don't get to see because it's raining at night.
Because it's good directing and it's building tension and all of that stuff that comes along with a Spielberg film. So yeah, it surprised me how well the CGI holds up over time, and just sort of funny that they haven't really been able to improve on it in the last 29 years.
Do you think maybe, I was thinking about that myself, and something occurred to me when you were talking about that, Brian. This is a great example of a film that goes, okay, this is the perfect time to use CGI. This is the perfect time to do a practical. This is the perfect time we're going to blend the two. And so they really pick their moments well. And I think that's one of the main reasons it holds up. One of the main reasons when we see some of these other films where it's like, that's too much digital, is because they're using it like as an efficiency measure, not as a creative, how do we sell this? So I think every time they use digital, like, does that make sense to you? Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, and it's funny. There's a YouTube channel out there where a bunch of digital artists look at good and bad CGI.
Is it Collider?
And they refer to themselves. Which one?
Was it Collider? I don't know. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Anyway, I can't remember the name off the top of my list, but it's a really interesting channel, and it's a bunch of people that are working visual effects artists, and they refer to themselves as digital artists and visual effects as opposed to special effects. Special effects being just all the practical effects that you and I grew up watching.
Blam. Yeah. No.
Yes.
I've even been on set. I know this, like from when working, and you make the mistake. Anyway, continue. Yeah.
But it's funny because, the lazy joke now is, oh, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
And, back before all the digital effects, filmmakers had to storyboard and plan out and figure out what coverage they wanted, how they wanted to edit it. And they had to work with Industrial Light and Magic, and they had to figure out all these things ahead of time. And now it seems like there's a certain laziness or a certain, we'll fix it in post sort of attitude that didn't exist back then. And if you watch all the special features on the Blu-ray, you can really see Steven Spielberg planning out, like, he had his crew build miniatures of all the sets, and he had a little lipstick camera, and he's planning out his shots like any other filmmaker, like he's not Steven Spielberg. But by doing so, he gets, he's doing the work. He's putting in the time, the effort to make a really good film. And not that filmmakers don't care as much nowadays, but I think there's that temptation to just go, you know what? Call a day. We're into overtime. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, I can totally see that. But I suspect actually these decisions are made before we'll fix it in post. Like, because that's been around forever. Okay, now I can refer to back in my day, it was a joke. Um, and this is the late 90s when I got into film. So it's been around forever. I suspect a lot of the times these decisions are made at the very beginning when they're budgeting the film. It's like, we're going to do all this way. We're not going to do that. We're going to do that. And that's what these films, even the big Marvel epics, can look efficient. They meet the second they met their quality standard, it's like, okay, good enough. It's a high quality standard. It's a high bar, but it's not necessarily as high as it could be. Whereas, and even though, like, if you think about what you're talking about with Spielberg and the camera, all the planning he does, I think does allow for a financially efficient film while still getting the best of everything you want. Because, God, no one could say, well, I didn't know what we were going to shoot on the day. It's Spielberg. You know exactly what's going to happen on the day. And that's where you can save money and be inspired on the day. Oh, well. What did you think of the performances?
Rewatching it's funny how much you forget, or the details of the performances that you forget. And just rewatching just like the first reveal of the CGI dinosaurs, where they're kind of panning up with the camera and you're going with Sam Neill as the point of view character. It's funny because if you don't see it in context, it could be, oh, it's overacting and just, oh, look at that. But that's why you hire good actors to do it, to where you're going the 10 out of 10 and then dialing it back to 8 or a 9, and you just saw a dinosaur for the first time, and it sells the CGI. Sam Neill's reaction and Laura Dern's reaction and everyone else's reaction. I loved all the performances in this film, including Samuel L. Jackson in a far too small role, and Wayne Knight being Wayne
smoking
Knight. Yeah, and just like Wayne Knight, and the fact that Spielberg is doing a Spielberg film, and yet he still allows a nascent actor in Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, he had experience, but he wasn't really established yet. But he was still letting Samuel L. Jackson do his thing, and Wayne Knight do his thing.
Yeah,
two completely different styles of acting, both in the same film, both in sharing some scenes, and yet they both work in this film. The performances really do stand out to me.
I wonder, like, okay, I'm gonna bring up 3 things kind of related to that. So first of all, because they have so little time on screen, both Wayne Knight and Samuel L. Jackson, if you want everybody to work, like, I don't mean work, like get to work, but if you want everything to work on screen and you don't have a lot of time, you'd have to trust that actor enough so that they can be a character, not chew up the scenery, not try and steal the scene. And I think that's what you're seeing there, is great actors and a director willing to let them be a character. It's how you remember those characters and reminded of how good they were, how good the performance was. Cause it's like, I remember that guy, and none of them are taking over though either. They really intimately understand where they fit in the story. And I think that goes to Spielberg, but the talent. The other thing, you're right about, like Wayne Knight, by then it established, an established, or no, not by then. I think he's just still kind of on TV now and then. Yeah, because Seinfeld didn't really hit its stride until mid-90s, eh? Trying to remember. Oh,
well, that was season 3 or 4, so he'd been on for a few years. They had done the Keith Hernandez Second Spitter episode by then.
Oh, okay, all right. So
he was pretty well established.
Yeah. But Sam Neill, although wasn't a big name, I think this is what made him a movie star. He had, there was Dead Calm, with Nicole Kidman, a couple others, but up to that point, I think an Australian actor, and this kind of propelled him. But you could see why he got hired. He was, in many respects, the film is about him. Not about the kids,
Yes.
not even about Laura Dern. It really is about him. He's the one with the biggest character arc. Yeah. All right. What, anything else? I mean, yeah, the special effects, the practicals, genius.
Well, and
even
and
the
just
sets, it felt like an amusement park.
yeah, the sets, the Hawaii location, standing in for Costa Rica, everything. And it really stood out to me too about the scripting, the actual plot and the scripting of it, is rewatching it, you're seeing every line is perfectly crafted for what it needs to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Some foreshadowing, but it's not like a lot of films nowadays where it's well, they're so deep into character and you have to spend an extra, you have to do a 3-hour movie for something that should be an hour and a half.
Yeah.
This one, especially that first reel, that first 20 minutes, it establishes everything. We get the scene with the little kid and Alan Grant takes the thing and pretends to chop open the entrails of the kid. You get all these scenes in 20 minutes of screen time leading up to the first reveal, and it just was amazing to me how well thought out, how well planned out that is, and how efficient the screen
hang
time
on
is,
that, because
where none of it drags.
Hang on that, because I think we're getting right into the magic of the story. But one thing I did want to mention before we go on, one of the, and it's the only reason we may not immediately remember the name of Bob Peck, is because he died only 6 years after. It was, I believe it was cancer. Let me just double check here.
He was the blood-sucking lawyer, I think.
No, he was Muldoon, the Australian outback guy. But I think we would have seen so much more of him, because that character could have been a caricature and has been caricatured since. But I was like, that clever girl, like, and then he dies and it's like, best movie death ever. and I mean, there's been great movie deaths. It's not the best, but it's just such his last moment is totally fits the character they created, and he delivers it was just clever girl. It's just awesome.
Well, it's a great line. It's a great death. But have you ever seen Bill Hader do that exact line?
I haven't.
Recreated, and Bill Hader in only the way that SNL's Bill Hader can do, HBO's Barry, just his face lights up. He's like, clever girl.
But it's a great line, but it also shows that this, again, a performer and a director in sync can create a character that, maybe somebody else doesn't handle it right, or maybe they don't spend the time or give them the room. And this is, I think, the perfect time to hook into the story. Everyone is on screen, like you said, for just enough time. But they all know, and this is one of the genius things about this film, everybody knows where they fit in the story. So they all get enough time to be that thing. And yeah, he's like, I just think he's a perfect example of that. And I think there's a guy who could have had an elderly, like he was already almost, well, he was in his 50s, early 50s when he shot that. Or no, 47. That's what he was. 47 when he shot. Oh yeah. So he was already, but he could have had another 20 years of like man's man kind of roles, if his life hadn't been cut short. Although who knows, look up a bit more of his history. Nope, going back to theater, mate. Crikey. I was born to play Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's a great performance, but it's also
terrible.
Yeah, it's also a little bit too. It is a little bit of the Croc Hunter, and it is a little bit Crocodile Dundee. I mean, it is a little bit of that, but he also does make it his own that role, and with the very little screen time he has, he does make an impact.
Yeah.
of like, oh shoot, if this guy is going to die and he knows what these dinosaurs can do, how is everyone else supposed to survive?
Oh, I think that's it. Like it's a perfect example. Like he's such a formidable guy. And because he's always respected the foe, the prey, into preying on, his death achieves a story objective. These things are way smarter than anyone's giving them credit for. They are the monster. The monster is it. You're in a house with these monsters. They are not just wild meadow creatures or whatever. They're monsters, and they are smarter. If they can get this guy, we're all. And I again, like just such efficiency in storytelling. Like it's one of those pantheon movies that every scene advances the plot, reveals character, and explores theme. And another great moment was and it's like a nice bit of foreshadowing. And I'd love to say that I figured this out, Brian. I did not. But there's a moment in the helicopter, first act of the film, like in that first 20 minutes when you have very little time to get everything established, plant those seeds in the audience's mind. Big seeds planted well, but even the little ones, and this is the moment where you can't find the other end, the male end to his seatbelt, like Sam Neill's character. And so what does he do? He takes two female ends, he makes it work. Life finds a way, which is a great little hint, a great little visual cue to what's coming. And I think that's one of those, again, back to that, everything's so efficient. You have a bit of a scare moment, but you also get a bit of an exploration, a bit of a story taster. Like, Jesus, was there any scene that you saw that you're like, well, that could have been cut?
No. I mean, that's the beauty of Steven Spielberg at his finest. I mean, not that Steven Spielberg hasn't had his clunkers too, but there's a reason why if you don't watch this film for a year or two and then you go back and rewatch it with kind of fresh eyes, even though you've seen it before, it's not one of those where you're sitting there waiting for the next scene to go on and go like, well, when are we going to get to the running and the screaming, and like, because everything has a good pace to it and every line is there for a reason, as they say, moment, scene, film, that principle is used perfectly in this film to where you can rewatch it and the jokes still land, the jump scares still land, and the effects still hold up too. So
yeah,
it's just mastercraft filmmaking.
Quick break in our exploration here. We do have somebody in the chat.
Woohoo!
It is a surprise night. He must have heard us talking about him. We have Mr. Cody Brocup from the Brocup side.
Hey.
The Brocup side. God, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna be able to mimic his voice.
I can't do it. Yeah.
The
Hello,
Brocup
friend.
side.
Yes, I can't
On
quite do
the
it.
Brocup side.
And Cody just launched another great merch video today, this past afternoon.
He did.
Yeah, great video, very fun, and it was him going through and finding Buzz Lightyear toys and merch, and picking those up in advance of Lightyear coming out in a couple weeks. So
anyway,
it's a good video.
It's great to see you here, Cody. Mr. DNA, please help. Apparently, I guess I had the mute on for a bit. Yeah, you know what? I'm just trying to keep the McDonald's out of the show. Back to story. Back to this movie. Especially now that we know everyone's getting my dulcet tones. Oh, geez, we totally missed all that. The Brocup side. Okay. What did you what was your favorite scene? What do you think was what's your favorite scene? What's the most important scene and why? So, and those two can be different. Your favorite scene and the most important scene.
Yeah, I would say my favorite scene, of course, is when the lawyer gets eaten by the T-Rex. The blood-sucking lawyer is hiding in the bathroom, and like the coward that he is, getting eaten by the T-Rex. It's it's just the visual,
This is a
and then of course
moment,
also
eh?
Wayne Knight dying with the.
Oh yeah,
it's also one of my favorite scenes too, just because just Wayne Knight running around in the mud and the muck and the mud trying to get to the boat, and then bites it to the whatever kind of dinosaur that was with the big ears.
Yeah. What do you think is the most important scene? And this is a tough question, especially for this movie.
I think it's in some ways it's when Alan Grant and Lex and Tim wake up in the tree the morning after, and the Brachiosaurus is there to kind of wake them up, and Tim's like, "It's a Vegisaurus! It's a Vegisaurus!" And that's sort of like the turning point where, yes, they're still running, but not all dinosaurs are bad. Not all dinosaurs are trying to kill them. And they can also kind of reclaim some of the wonder that they had at the beginning of the film before they started the running.
And
that was sort of the morning of trying to reclaim some hope, reclaim some agency, and pick up the energy of the film from that point out.
Yeah. Well, and it had a nice little, we get a rest as the audience, little pull back on the tension a little. Do you think also that is the moment that they knew, or the moment where it's like, we can count on this Alan Grant guy, and even Alan Grant's like kind of, oh yeah, these kids are my responsibility now.
Yes, the guy who spent the whole first act of the film saying he doesn't have kids, he doesn't want kids. Yeah, terrorizing a kid who's being a smartass to him on his dig site. Now is responsible. You're right, for Richard Attenborough's grandkids at that point.
Yeah, and not in a I'm stuck with them, like he seems to acknowledge that they are children, like I can't quite articulate what I'm going after, but yeah, there's something. I'm not sure it's the most important scene for me, from my perspective, but I see what you're getting at there, and it is a key scene.
It's the thing too of kids. Kids are people too, and what I mean by that is they can be annoying, but they can also be they can also come up with good ideas, and they can all they're just like adults but smaller and less experienced. So the whole first act, they're kind of establishing, they're kids, they're rambunctious, and Tim is bugging them like, hey, that part of your book, and but at that point when they're kind of waking up and they're like, the future is good, the future, kids are the future, he can kind of see that at that point, and see that they're worth saving. Something, by the way, that I think Jurassic World, the first one, failed miserably at, because the two kids in that film trying to play the same kind of characters did not work at all.
Yeah, many things did not work on that film.
Yeah.
Cody in the chat says Alan Grant's arc with the kids is one of the best elements of the movie. He loves the moment where he pretends to be electrocuted, makes me laugh every time.
And to do that in the middle of a film like that, or when they're in the middle of running for their lives, to have that little moment of levity, that is a really smart move on the character's part to have that moment of levity with those kids, to kind of re-energize them for the long trip ahead of them.
Yeah. And I'm coming back to Cody's comment for a quick sec. Mentioned it earlier. The movie's about all these people surviving this terrible thing. But the movie's also about Alan Grant coming to terms with maybe not just kids are all right, but that he could be a father. That could be part of his life now, from a guy who wants nothing to do with kids to a nurturer, a caregiver, which is also kind of a different way of looking at a man. It's not the Muldoon character, the man's man. It's not the little too smooth, maybe a little too smooth Jeff Goldblum. Not the other folks. It's him, the one who doesn't like kids, but he's the one who comes through for them and with them without, does he kill one? I don't think he kills one dinosaur. Like he doesn't kill one, doesn't attack one, doesn't lay a trap for one. Like, I mean, I think that's an important character thing and everything, and an important, maybe not an intended theme, although I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't discussed as they were kind of fleshing out these characters. But,
well, I think it would have been hard for that character to try and fight back, because I don't believe he had any weapons on him.
Well, and they could give him a weapon.
It's not like you can set up a giant pit with sticks in it.
Well, but I think that's this is where I'm going to push back a little. That the writer can do anything, can give him a weapon, can set up a scenario where he traps him. I think the reason it doesn't make sense, it's not because he didn't have the tools. You can make the tools happen. They don't do it because it wouldn't make sense for the character. That is not the character they wanted. This guy who gets through by, outsmarting them or anything. I think that's because you can't have that huggy dad moment in the helicopter at the end if he laid waste to half the island, a la, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator,
That is true. They although they have tried that in a lot of Schwarzenegger films for sure. Yeah. Even Kindergarten Cop, I think he probably wasted a few of the bad guys there.
Yeah, it's still a moment. All right. Cody says, I hope Lex and Tim make cameos in Dominion as long as it's done well and not plain fan service. A good point. Let's move into the meaning. If you were to lay three themes down, what would they be in order of importance for you? What do you think were in order of importance to the filmmakers, the themes that were explored in this film for you, Brian?
For me, it's the main overarching one is man's hubris. It's man's hubris of man versus nature. We're going to win. Yep. And nature fighting back and saying, whether that's through chaos theory or dinosaurs flipping genders last minute or sort of randomly
wrapping around two female ends of a seatbelt and making it work.
Yeah. And it's how we respond to the chaos of it all. And even when we think we have everything under control, we really don't. Control is that illusion.
Yeah.
And what do you do when things start going wrong and people start running and and the dinosaurs start chasing you?
I know it's from a later film, but that Jeff Goldblum, this is a bit of a bit of genius that otherwise I don't think you see in any of the later films, even the okay ones. That's such a good, and then the running and the screaming starts, and it's a great line.
Well, he's just so good at playing that character and being good in small doses. As he doesn't go full Jeff Goldblum most of the time, but I don't know if you've seen some of these
There's always
stills
that
they've already
energy
released.
there.
Well, and there's that famous shot of him dressed all in black, where his shirt buttons are kind of halfway down his chest, and he's sort of like the '70s like kind of manly man, Tom
doing a
Selleck kind of a thing.
Doing a Playgirl
Yeah,
spread.
and what's funny is they've recreated that shot in one of the stills from Jurassic Park Dominion, where it's Jeff Goldblum now, in still in really good shape, but all with 100% gray hair, redoing the same exact pose, and it's freaking hilarious.
Awesome.
And it's just a still photograph, but it's Ian Malcolm. It is that character.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, the key thing is that they really knew their characters here. What else though? So we've talked about the man's hubris. Great classic theme. Anything else you'd say? I mean, it's got to be the first time anyone, let's say it became part of the mass conscious chaos theory. Not that that's a theme, but would you say like there's some sort of sub theme explored in there? Like it's kind of fits well within the man's hubris, but also the unpredictability of life.
Well, and sort of the Jeff Goldblum character being the living embodiment of the chaos, of embracing the chaos. When he's taking Laura Dern's hand and talking about the slight imperfections on her skin and trying to explain chaos theory and the butterfly flapping its wings and rain falling in Shanghai.
Well, where does the water go? Which is also a great story moment because that's so important later in the film.
Yes, and to have the guy that embraces the chaos,
so efficient,
somehow still surviving, even though his leg is injured halfway through. Still having that kind of an animalistic, playful growl that he has. It's just that's the joy of that character, bringing some levity, but also having a distinct point of view that informs the story as well.
But back to theme. Anything else you'd add to your list before I get into mine?
Oh gosh. No, well, those are the main ones. I mean, there's lots of other ones, but those are the main two. Those are the main ones for me. How about you?
I think, got to go back to family. I think that's actually, it may be more subtle, but it's in a way, I think, a stronger theme because it's the way it's played out. They're making a big statement, a very Spielbergian statement about family and about fatherhood, because you do have why does Richard Attenborough, Hammond's character, survive? Because in the book he does not make it. He has a rather miserable death, actually. He survives because even he at the end kind of gets, no, my grandchildren are more important than than any of this. He can kind of get through his ego and this, let's just get the hell out of here, closing up shop. And of course the central conflict between Laura Dern, what's her character's name?
Ellie Sadler.
Thank you. Between Ellie and Mr. Grant there, Alan, is that, she wants a more of a commitment. It's a little, classic overused trope. The woman wants commitment and therefore children, whereas the guy, it's like, no, I'm a rootin' tootin' archaeologist guy who hates kids. It's interesting that it doesn't stink to high heaven because they handled it so well. Like it felt so real, but otherwise it's like kind of a trope, but it still comes to that idea of family and about being a good father. And, he's at the beginning, he is not prepared for that, has zero interest, but by the end of it, he shows he has what it takes. And here's this grandfather whose daughter's going through a divorce. So this is why the kids are there. Cause he's like, sure, I'll look after him. He's got some of the basics and he never sells them out. And he does in the end kind of make a good choice between the park and these kids. And I think that's something, very much a Spielberg thing. Probably going back
Well,
to his own
those
childhood and his dad not being part of his life.
Yeah, and you're right. Those two arcs are like the two main character arcs through the film, where we have, Alan Grant's character who, he chose a career away from most women and away from friends and family, where he's off digging in the dirt in South Dakota somewhere. I mean,
exactly.
This is the life that he chose, and seeing that arc. But we're also seeing Hammond's arc, where he's the $1 billion inventor,
promoter. Well, there's a bit of P.T. Barnum and a bit of
there. And the grandkids are there to be market research more than anything. And and the journey he goes on of, by the end of the film going like, we need to not open this. When the whole purpose of bringing them and
good.
It was just for the blood-sucking lawyers and for the investors.
I want to, we got, before we move forward, we do have a couple of comments I want to highlight. First of all, we've got our the other half of Overanalyzing Movies, Jimbo.
Hey, Jim.
Full disclosure, Rob owes Sam Neill a tenner. I do not owe Sam Neill a tenner, but I can say this. The first, let's say, union movie, big movie I worked on way back when, was a little film from Turner Broadcast Systems called, I don't know if it's been renamed. What the hell was it called again? I cannot remember what the movie's called. Anyway, starred Rob Lowe as the hero and Sam Neill as the villain. So the first big movie, I was the assistant to the director and Sam Neill. And I can say this, I'm not gonna bullshit anyone and say I got chummy with them or anything, but I can say his family, he had a business associate with him because they were looking at doing other things, and class act, everyone, just class act. And, I have been on sets where talent has been less than classy. Sam Neill, the opposite of that. So there you go. There's my Sam Neill story. And I don't own him. I do not owe him $10. Screw that. All right. So Cody does say
10 quid.
10 quid. It's dollars in New Zealand, isn't it? Yeah, New Zealand dollars. Yep. Okay. Cody says,
I don't know if they're dollars down there for the Kiwis or the.
Yeah, I think it's called New Zealand dollars. Well, somebody in the chat, maybe Jim can look that up for us.
Framed. He was framed.
Framed. Thank you. That was it. That was the movie. That's what it was called. Framed. Thank you very much, Jimbo. And then Cody says he can't wait to see Sam Neill back in Dominion. And he says, just makes me think the story is good if they got him back. Could very well be. That's a great point. I'm going to take, before we move forward, I'm going to take this opportunity, first of all, once again, to beg for a like, a subscribe, and that's to my channel, Rob Christensen, home of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, and of course to Dragon Movie Guy, my guest co-host tonight, link in the description. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, ring-a-ding that bell so you get notified of all the videos, especially this one because it's going to be taken down and put back up. Although, and again, another thanks to Cody for getting us on the other thing I am going to say is that on Sunday, Jim and I will be back at our regular time, 9:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Coordinated Universal Time -6. And we are going to be looking at a movie that is on Netflix right now, RRR. And that is the title of the movie. I'm not just being lazy. Movie from India. It looks bonkers, and I can't wait to watch it.
Is that like a Tolkien reference? Like it's a James R Tolkien?
I don't believe it is. You know what? I suspect there'll be not a lot of positive heroic British references in an Indian film. I have a feeling that, yeah, they won't be pulling stuff out of English culture and going, this is what we need to make a film. This will play well in the local market. Okay. As we move into the end game. Jimbo did answer a question. New Zealand and Australia are both dollars. Thanks very much, Jim. All right. Well, I suspect it's like our dollar, either a coin or some colorful thing.
The bloonies, the
loonies for one, that's it. And then a toonie for a $2 coin, $2 Canadian.
It's tiny, it's toony, it's all a little loony.
Ooh, that's a good one. All right. Are we giving the director a pass or a fail?
Yes. We're going to full thumbs up.
Yeah. We're
going Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's just become part of the show. I'll do it till we don't do the show anymore. But I always feel like there's some of these ones where it's like, wait, of course it's a pass. It is Spielberg at his peak. He has made some great films since, but at his peak. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and interesting to note too that while Spielberg was making this film, he was also making Schindler's List. So
that's right.
They shot Jurassic Park first, and then they went to go to Europe to shoot Schindler's List. And after they were done watching the dailies from Schindler's List, they were editing Jurassic Park at night.
Wow.
So you can't have two more opposite style of films. Yeah. And yet they're two of Steven Spielberg's finest works.
It's definitely legacy films. Schindler's List. There'd be one to look at later. Okay. I really have to plan for that one. Okay. Final thoughts. Looking at you, my friend.
I am so glad that they're bringing back the original 3 stars for Jurassic World Dominion. I've wanted to like the Jurassic World franchise, and it just hasn't really delivered, especially the last film. I love Chris Pratt. I love everything he does, but the whole thing, that whole thing, it's just, it's unique, but it's not particularly great. I mean, if that's the one thing that stands out about this sequel trilogy, and I'm really hoping that they could recapture that magic from the original film from 1993, bring those stars into the franchise now, have them running from dinosaurs even at their ages now. I am hoping that is a good sign, that Colin Trevorrow, back in the director's chair, has a better movie on his hands than the previous 2. So,
and it's always tough when you're not the originator of the franchise. Like Michael Crichton died, 20 years ago. When did Michael Crichton pass? It's not Spielberg, even though he's, in a producing relationship some way, do they, we alluded to this before. I mean, and I still hold by we can't review the script based on we don't have the script in front of us, but it is such an important component to that setup. To the director does have to have the right script in hand. But going back to what you were talking about in craft, and even at the beginning, just how on top of Spielberg's game, like just what a master of filmmaking craft he is. That it's not just the script, it's what you do with it. And all that preparation, all that planning, all that, the physical working out of the problems of a film, so that when one of his crew asks him a question, he has an answer, to the, that compendium of almost like body memory on what makes a good scene, what is the right thing to say to an actor so that they deliver their best. Yeah, you know what? Will Trevorrow be given enough, let's say, leash that, and is he be given the right script? Is he contributing to the right script? And will he have the right command and control to be able to deliver something like that? We'll find out. I guess we'll find out next Thursday at the latest, eh? Do we have something that people go, I can't believe Top Gun Maverick was my favorite film until this? I don't see that happening,
to be fair too, if I was going to say, a film that should not have a sequel, it would be a train wreck waiting to happen. It would be a Top Gun 2. And yet
3 times you've seen it.
Enjoyed,
and you're a grown ass adult.
And not that it's a perfect film, but all of the hard decisions, whether do we create an homage to this scene? Do we recreate the volleyball scene? Do we how do we do this to where it pays homage? All of those decisions were the right decisions for that film. So, and if we say, well, if Spielberg came back, but even Spielberg is not Spielberg anymore. The last 10 years he's been doing biopics and animated movies. So
he did that remake, that reboot, that remake of West Side Story.
It wasn't nearly as good as the original.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
I thought it was a decent film, but
just the genre. That's all his quibbling.
Oh no, I love musicals, but to go with a gritty, dirty, down and dirty,
all right, we're not
in reality kind of thing for a musical. I thought was
gotcha. Okay, for myself, on this film, back to here, yeah, it belongs up there with Matrix and Star Wars. And these are films that we've covered here. A few others. Coda may actually go down. I could see myself looking at it again in 10 years and going, that was damn near a perfect film. It had no fat. This has no fat. Every scene is required. Even the little bits, these little moments, they're all perfect payoffs for proper setup. Muldoon dying not just advances everything, but it's also a great payoff. The lawyer's death, Newman's death, everything. Just, if you cut something, you hurt the film. That's it. There's nothing where you go, oh, I don't remember that scene. Everything is iconic. Yeah. Jesus film. Here's
it's so hard to say too, because
a fun fact, apparently, according to Cody, fun fact is Steven Spielberg called Robin Williams to cheer him up while he was filming Schindler's List. And when I asked really, he says, it was in Spielberg's autobiography.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been right around when he did the Sally Field movie about divorce. Mm-hmm. So
anyway,
Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah, right around that time. And it is sort of interesting to note too that I think this is sort of is not this your actual final thought?
Because we're wrapping it up now. So
it's just thinking about Spielberg's career and what Spielberg has obviously that first chapter of his career where he does Jaws and all the Close Encounters, and really it picks up again in the 90s with Jurassic Park as being one of the first films in that second renaissance of Spielberg's career. So I love this film, and the John Williams score, of course.
Yeah. It's interesting. I am not sure Schindler's List, it's a legacy film, and I think in some ways what makes it important is that he made it. Especially like he said himself multiple times, he wanted to make sure he was ready to make the film. That said, when I think of Spielberg and his films, that is not one of the ones that pops to my mind. I'm not saying it's a bad film, or even a it's okay, or fine. It's a fine film, but I don't think it gets at the same level of some of his other work. I think in some ways we can see some of his later work where it's like, that is incredibly well crafted. Like, even the things that are a disappointment, you can't say it's like, well, that was some crappy filmmaking. Who thought to put the camera there? It has all the, but you can kind of see an over polishing maybe, or like there's a fire missing out of that. And that is not some weird allusion to the single match, but there's something not quite there that you see in some of his other work, and his later work. It's less of it. So I'm thinking that's almost like a watershed moment. But anyway, that's more for a later conversation. Brian, thank you very much. No, we're done. Yeah, we're wrapping it up. I was like, no 4-hour epic. Brian, thank you very, very much for joining me on this. This was fun. It will, folks, to those in the chat right now, which would be, it looks like Cody, because Jim had to go. You know what? This will be taken off. I will edit and replace the sound so that it's actually, hey, that's Rob talking, and we're actually hearing Rob. But I did want to say to everyone, thank you all so much for making it out. Cody, thank you very much. Jim, thank you. And again, back to you, my friend. Thank you. And again, your channel's down there. Where else can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on medium.com even. And you can find all of my written movie reviews on reviewNation.net.
And medium.com now, eh? You've got a, well, I didn't know that. Did I know that? No, I don't think I knew that. Well,
I'm just copying and pasting the reviews and posting them there, seeing if it gets any traction.
Okay. Hey, why not? When you say we can find you there, what's your handle? What's your handle on these social media channels?
@DragonMovieGuy.
All right. Well, on that note, of course, I hope you'll stick around for a bit. We can continue the what might turn into an entertaining argument after the show. But to everyone else, I do want to thank you all again very, very much for attending. Don't forget, next on Sunday, this Sunday, like 2 days, we'll be doing RRR. It is on Netflix right now, and that's at 9:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Watch the movie before. We're not doing the movie. We're not watching the movie. It's not a watch party. It's an over-analysis afterwards. But we'll see you on Sunday night, 9:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Universal coordinated Universal Time, -6. Otherwise, and we got look at this. Cody says in the chat, Brian is a celebrity, confirmed. All right. On that note, I think it's time to just wave goodbye, everybody. Okay, bye-bye.